photos and video that we'd love to see get out there sooner rather than later. So as you all know, last night about just before 8 p.m., we received a call, the 6700 block of Windsor Hollow, for a report of a shooting. Responding deputies arrived. They found a pretty chaotic scene, to say the least. Next door to this residence was another residence where they were first directed to, where they found turns out she was a CNA, a nurse's assistant, that was attempting to render first aid to the little girl, the 4-year-old girl that ultimately passed away. She was trying frantically to try to revive the little girl. One of our deputies that first arrived on scene is also a licensed paramedic. He jumped in, and they were, between the two of them, they were trying to administer life-saving measures. EMS came and took over, unfortunately. Ultimately, as we all know, they were unsuccessful in doing so, but certainly not through lack of trying on the part of some very highly trained people. Once they were able to get back next door to 6708, they were able to find a pretty bloody crime scene, for lack of a better term. It was a pretty bloody crime scene. Ultimately, 5 people were shot, to include the little girl, also a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old, along with the 2 parents of these children. So this video that we're showing is a video of and we're going to share this with your desk, but that's the car the shooter's pulling up, and then what you see is the shooter's actually running up on foot and laying down some gunfire. Now we're going to see this same thing from a couple of different angles, and then I'll go into some still photos of these shooters as well that we'd like to see get out there, please. So again, this is from another angle as that car's pulling up. We're also going to show you some still photos of that car, along with a stock image of what kind of car we think it is. So there you see him in slow motion, laying down gunfire from a pretty devastating weapon. We'll also show you a picture of what we think those weapons are. And they're getting into that. That's from the next door neighbor's house. You can see where they're running up and again, firing their shots. Ultimately, we found a total of 30 rounds of pretty devastating round. I believe it's 7.62 rounds. So there's shooter number 1, what we're calling shooter number 1. We believe he's either a white or Hispanic male, obviously wearing a gray hoodie, black pants of some sort, and then red shoes. And he is carrying a weapon, the same kind of weapon that number 2 is carrying. We'll show you number 2. Number 2, we're not able to make out the race. Obviously, number 1, you saw he was wearing a hood, a balaclava, a tactical type hood, a ski mask type hood, but he's got his face exposed. Number 2, you can't really see too much more of his face. Also wearing black athletic clothes, probably white or gray shoes, black hood also, balaclava, and carrying a weapon that is very similar to this, what we call a Draco. Street slang, there's also a brand name of weapon, but that's what we call a Draco in common street vernacular, I guess. It's a small AK-47 type weapon that fires a devastating round. We've seen those chambered in different rounds. We believe that this is what they were using last night, though, firing 7.62 rounds. Just to give you a point of reference, looking at the front of the house, and we don't have any pictures of it here, but I made the observation from the street that as you looked at the front of the house, obviously there's bullet holes all over the front of it, but the bullet holes didn't look like you would picture a bullet hole looking like, right? A round hole where a bullet went in. These were longer holes. The reason being is because that being such a short-barreled weapon, the rounds, almost as soon as they come out of that gun, are tumbling. And so when they hit flat. I say that to say that it's a devastating wound that makes. So you can imagine that coming in contact with a little girl, 4 years old. Her older, the other victims, 7 and 8 years old. That's a devastating round by some people that absolutely intended to take lives last night. This was not a drive-by shooting where they shot from the street. They wanted to get out and get up close and personal, and they wanted to empty enough lead into that home to make sure that they inflicted maximum damage, to make sure that they killed somebody. Is it going to give me great pleasure to charge both of these 2 guys with capital murder when the time comes? Absolutely it's going to. I can promise you that. It's just something that we can't allow to happen anywhere, to anyone. much less a 4-year-old child that had nothing to do with anything that these guys were involved in or thought that they were involved in. Esta tarde nosotros vamos a dar más información tocante un tiroteo, un homicidio que ocurrió anoche. A casi las 8 de la noche nosotros recibimos una llamada por un reporte de un tiroteo. Cuando oficiales llegaron, se encontraron con una mujer civil intentando de administrar primeros auxilios a una niña de 4 años de edad. Los oficiales que llegaron también son paramédicos licenciados. Ellos intentaron de salvar la vida a esta niña, pero no tuvieron éxito, desafortunadamente. Ya cuando entraron a la otra casa, encontraron una escena con otras cuatro víctimas que fueron baleadas. 2 niños, 7 y 8 años de edad y 2 adultos, que obviamente todos fueron llevados a SAMC. Todos sobrevivieron sus heridas, menos la niña de 4 años de edad que falleció. Nosotros tenemos las esperanzas que ustedes nos van a ayudar a poner estos videos, estas fotografías en el público con las esperanzas que alguien nos va a ayudar a poder averiguar quiénes son estos sospechosos. Hay alguien allá que los conoce a estos dos y que los va a reconocer de las fotos y los videos. Ellos usaron una arma, se piensa que usaron armas. Estas son las fotografías de los 2 sospechosos. Es el primero, el segundo también tenemos fotos de él. Pero estos sospechosos estaban usando una arma que nosotros le decimos Draco. Okay, esta es una arma similar a la AK-47 que dispara una bala grande, fea, que empieza a revolcarse ya en el aire y deja agujero, no como las balas que se ven en las películas, sino que esta es una bala que deja mucho daño a lo que le pega. Se puede imaginar lo que va a pasar cuando esta bala le pega a una niña, por ejemplo, en la cabeza. Y obviamente le quitó la vida a esa niña instantáneamente. Y no tuvimos éxito en rescatar la niña esa. Esta es una fotografía del carro el carro que iban usando los sospechosos. This is actually a picture of the car taken from the surveillance video. We believe at this point, the prevailing theory is that this is an Infiniti. Possibly this is a stock photo comparing it. And what we're going off of is the body style. Obviously, this back window looking like it's chopped off. The stock image has it as well. So, I mean, it's highly likely that this is Infiniti, but it could be another brand that just looks close. But that's what we're operating on the premise now, is that we're looking at a medium to dark gray colored Infiniti Q50, unknown year. And there's a video and a still of the car as it's fleeing the scene. So again, we'll be sending these videos to the news desks. I'll open it up to whatever questions you all might have at this point.
So this was a townhome, right?
It's a townhome.
And there were units hit? How many units were hit with bullets?
Just those 2. I mean, these guys were, it looks like a very sloppy, disorganized operation, but they were pretty surgical. They knew exactly what they were going to do. They were going there to that 1 unit. And again, even though there's a secondary unit attached to it, they knew exactly what they were going for. And so I have no doubt that they were after the people in that home for whatever reason. And again, they were there to inflict maximum damage. No injuries, no other hits on any other units. No, ma'am.
Las personas que están, sheriff, en el hospital, ¿son madre y padre y sus hijos o aquí quiénes están hospitalizados?
Yo pienso que son relación todos, ¿verdad? Is it mother and father and children? Yeah, so. Las víctimas, los adultos, sé que son los padres de la niña, pero no estoy seguro de los otros 2 niños si son los niños de ellos. Pero sí sé que los 2 padres y la niña que falleció, sí son familiares.
¿Y las edades de los padres?
¿Mande?
¿Las edades más o menos de los padres?
Están en sus 20s, 30s. How old are the mom and dad?
20s?
Late 20s, 30s.
¿Nos puede repetir cuántas rondas se dispararon?
Sí, aproximadamente 30 rondas se dispararon.
The person in that secret video
information?
We're trying to determine who that person was at this point still. We believe that that's another adult that was present that miraculously was not hit, is from what we can tell at this point. And I'm sorry, the mother and the father are 25 and 27. 25 y 27 tienen la edad.
¿Ya se encuentran en estado estable?
Todos están estables en el hospital ahorita, menos la niña, obviamente.
Ayer mencionó unos mensajes de texto entre la víctima y uno de los sospechosos. ¿Quién era la víctima y se sabe la razón?
Bueno, ahora esa fue la información que nos llegó a nosotros anoche, pero ya viendo los textos, hemos logrado ver esos textos. Ahorita no se piensa que fue con intento de amenazar esos textos.
Do you have an update on the conditions of the people in hospital?
I believe everybody's stable at this point. All the four are stable.
When we were out there last night around 10:30, we heard another round of gunshots. Is this related? Do we know?
At this point, honestly, I think that was just maybe not related and probably done with the intent to distract or just be getting in the way of the investigation. To this point, we were not able to determine who it was that was firing those shots or how close or what their exact intent was, but I don't think it was related in any way.
Now you get those new angles, do you get a better sense of the age range of the suspect?
I mean, I'm going to guess just by how nimbly they were moving around. These are younger men, probably late teens to late 20s. One of them is a little bit heavier set than the other. But yeah, they seem to not have any trouble moving around, and it was certainly clear what their intent was. They wanted to inflict maximum damage.
Anoche conversábamos, Sheriff, y estaba casi seguro de que este atentado se hizo sabiendo que había menores. ¿Todavía sigues creyendo eso? ¿Me puedes elaborar?
Bueno, anoche a nosotros nos llegó información que habían unos mensajes entre una de las víctimas y otra persona. Ahora no se piensa eso tan seguramente. Para mí, cuando menos estos sí sabían que alguien estaba en la casa, porque ya cuando ellos se iban acercándole a la casa, alguien estaba enfrente de la puerta, unos pies. Ellos vieron a esa persona y así empezaron a disparar. Entonces ellos ya sabían que iban a matar a alguien. Para mí eso intentaban ellos.
Y el hecho de que la víctima, pobrecitos todas las víctimas de todos los
Sí,
asesinatos,
¿cómo no?
pero 4 años de edad, ¿es una motivación tal vez especial para ti que llegues y arrestes a estas personas?
A mí me daría mucho gusto poder arrestar estos dos sospechosos, o es más, todos los que están involucrados. Es posible que alguien más estaba manejando ese carro. Y aquí en el estado de Texas, todos los que están involucrados con un homicidio se pueden enfrentar con el cargo de homicidio, aunque ellos ni dispararon una pistola, una arma. Es posible que en el estado de Texas, aquí tenemos esa ley donde podemos ponerle ese cargo a todos. What I was mentioning to him is that my intent here is to go after a capital murder charge, plain and simple, on as many people as we can find out were involved. In the state of Texas, the law allows us to charge everybody equally. In other words, this is not an accessory state where you see on the TV, on movies where they say accessory to, we don't have that here. So if you drove the getaway car in a murder, you're charged with murder. You're not charged with accessory to. You're charged with murder, or capital murder as it were in this case. So again, my intent is to charge everybody here equally to the extent that we can find out they were involved.
This might have already been established, but all 5 victims were in the same room, and what room would that have been?
Well, I don't know that they were all in the same room. I know they were all in the same apartment unit. I don't think it was very big, so it's possible they may have been in different rooms. We're still trying to establish that. But yeah, they were all in pretty tight quarters, for sure.
You mentioned yesterday that you thought you knew through some information who these suspects were. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? And just because you mentioned that.
Sure. Well, and I certainly haven't strayed very far from that at all. We're pretty certain we've got some persons of interest that we're looking into. We're not yet at the point where I can say, here's who we're looking for, here's his face or his name, but we're pretty certain we're hot on their tracks. I've got my organized crime group that is out here that they've put everything else on pause to go look for these folks, and they're working together. I got a lot of people on this assigned to this case, and they're not going to stop until we get somebody in handcuffs. I can promise you that. It's possible, but not likely, not based upon what we have right now. And again, they're dealing with people that, the folks that I have devoted to this case are among the best in the business, the best I've ever had the chance to work with. And they are very, very good at what they do, which is tracking down people that don't want to be tracked down.
En el video se ve que uno se sube en el driver's seat y
Ujú.
luego otro en el passenger seat,
Ujú.
pero por detrás, like the back seat.
Ujú.
¿Es posible que haya alguien más que
Es,
estuvo?
es posible que haya alguien más que estaba de guardaespaldas, lo que sea. Pero sí, es posible que hay más personas que solamente estos dos, pero también es posible que todos se vayan a enfrentar con los mismos cargos.
Asesinato capital.
Asesinato capital.
Sorry to clarify, you're looking for 2 people or possibly?
Well, we're looking for those 2 shooters for sure, but I'm not going to be surprised if I find out there was 2 or even 1 or 2 other people in that car. And then, of course, anybody else that aided them either before or afterwards in the planning stages, or helping get rid of evidence or whatever it may be, or helping to harbor them, everybody's going to go to jail.
You had mentioned also that there was a nurse rendering aid. Did she live in the area? Was that a neighbor?
I think she's a neighbor, and she did great. She got the little girl out of there and took her to another unit nearby, and was trying her best to render first aid. But with a devastating injury like what this little girl had, I think, unfortunately, I hate to say it, it was really just a matter of time, despite her best efforts. But nonetheless, between she and that deputy that arrived, the first responding deputies that arrived, they've got equipment for this. One of the first deputies that arrived is actually a paramedic. And they tried, and they were not able to save her life, unfortunately.
Can you say where she was hit? The little girl?
She was hit in the head.
One other thing, was this man carrying a handgun? It's hard to tell from.
I think that they're both carrying those Dracos, is what it is. And it's a short-barreled rifle, so to speak. I guess it could be classified a pistol legally, but that's a devastating round to be putting down range. So I think that's exactly what they were both carrying.
Entonces, nada más para confirmar, las 5 personas estaban dentro de la casa más la persona que se ve en la puerta. ¿Eso eran 6?
Pienso que eran cuando menos 6, pero una no sufrió heridas. No sé cómo, por milagro, porque nosotros pensamos que esa señora que no fue baleada era la que estaba parada enfrente cuando empezaron los balazos.
And then just one last time.
Sure.
I know you mentioned this yesterday, but can you explain that this is not, the wrong house accidentally shot? Do you believe that?
Oh, I think these guys knew exactly where they were going and what they were doing. So I don't think it was a case of mistaken identity. I think it was extremely targeted. And again, I don't think that there's any continuing threat to the community. And again, I don't, the public out there may have seen a heightened presence of deputies out in the area. That's by design. We certainly want anybody with any information on this to give us a call, 210-335-6000. You can also email us at bcsotips@bear.org.
Adentro del hogar no se encontró nada, o sea, nada ilegal.
¿Dentro?
Armas y adentro.
No me ha dado cuenta de algo así. Okay. Thank y'all so much.